Hey everyone, today I wanted to do a video talking to you about my favorite sight system for medium and full-size Glocks, and that is the iDot Pros from Ameriglo. Now I've been using these for probably about a year and a half now. My first set I got on my Glock 21 here. This has pretty much been my test bed for anything else I want to try. This was the first one I put an aftermarket trigger onto, slide locks, all that kind of stuff. So I like to test stuff out on this, and so I went with the iDot Pros to test it out on this Glock 21. And I really liked them. I just fell in love with them, and so since then I've also purchased them for my Glock 19. So first I want to explain why I decided to go away from the factory Glock sights. Now, for a long time, when I first got into Glocks, the factory sights were not an issue whatsoever. In fact, I preferred them to the typical 3-dot sight setup, but there were some things about them that I didn't necessarily like, but didn't learn about until I started taking some training with them. So the first thing is something that I noticed the first handgun training course I took with my Glock 19, and that was as the sun started to set and the light started to get a little bit dimmer, my eyes had a much harder time focusing on that front sight. So let me grab my Glock 26 here, which still has the factory sights because I don't really carry this one much, just so I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. So if you look here on the factory Glock sights, you have this big white U in the rear, and then your front sight is just the white dot. Now, this is fine during the day. Again, you just basically fill up that rear with that front sight. If I can do this, it's hard to do backwards. Once you fill up that entire area, basically make a white triangle or rectangle, then you know your sights are exactly lined up and you can aim from there. But again, you have a lot of white in the rear. So as the light starts getting dimmer and your eyes have a harder time focusing on things, that becomes exceptionally hard to focus just on that front sight. Also consider, as your sights start jumping around while you're firing, if I can get this to line up properly, the thing that your eyes are probably going to follow is the big white thing moving as opposed to the small white thing moving. So because of that, your eyes are probably going to want to just default focus on that rear sight, which is not something you want to do. So whether that's recovering under recoil, finding that front sight, or even just moving your sights from one target to another, or even while you're shooting and moving, it can become really difficult to maintain focus just on that front sight. Then the other downside to the factory Glock sights is they're not metal. Now, I've personally never had one break, but I know people who have had them break during training when they're doing like single-handed manipulation, racking the sights off their belt or something like that. They've had their rear sights break off. Now, at least you do have that ledge there, which helps out significantly in single-handed manipulation. But again, because it's not metal, you can't guarantee that it's going to stay in one piece. So why did I choose the iDot Pros? So let me grab my Glock 19. Now, the thing I like the most about the iDot Pros is you have a very fast sight picture, in my opinion. For me, it's exceptionally fast. So you have, if you look here, I'll just show you individually, you have the that front sight there, which in this case is big and orange. They do have a couple other colors, but I like the orange myself because I find that it contrasts better with things that I might be aiming at, especially in Oregon. As green as it is here, I don't like having a green front sight. And I find that the white front sight kind of gets washed out with things I'm going to be aiming against as well, whereas that red is going to have a much nicer contrast. Then if you look at the rear sight here, it's more or less blacked out during the day. I mean, you have a little bit of a dot here, but that houses another little tritium vial. So you have tritium in both the front and the rear sight, so they are night sights. But you really don't have much distracting you as far as focus goes on that rear sight. So it's very easy to pick up that front sight. So this means whether I'm shooting and moving, and I'll be cutting in footage of one of the most recent handgun classes I took, you can see that I'm shooting on the move a lot, I'm engaging multiple targets a lot, and when you're moving from one target to another, or when you're moving in relation to your target, having a nice big front sight that jumps out at you, a nice contrasting color that jumps out at you, makes it much easier to go from one target to another, or to stay on target while you're moving. Now, one of the things that people typically have to give up if they want something that jumps out of them as a front sight is they give up a little bit of precision. Now, I have found personally that that's not a huge sacrifice with these. The steel targets that I was shooting in this class were about 3/4 size torso silhouette targets, and I'm engaging them from probably at the furthest about 25 yards away. I'm still having no issue making consistent solid hits on those torsos, so to me they're precise enough. Just as a comparison, I have some excess big dots, which I have on my Glock 43, The XS Big Dots are my go-to for any super subcompact single stack 9mm, just because I know the distances that I'm going to be using a gun like this, I just need to find that front sight as fast as possible. So you can see with the XS Big Dots, you have that giant golf ball in the front, and then you have that kind of V-notch in the rear, which thankfully this one also has tritium in the rear. So I have tritium in the front, tritium in the rear, so I can still get some aim at nighttime situations or low light situations, which to me is very desirable, but it's much harder to get as precise shots with that giant front sight and tiny rear sight. But again, you still have that ledge to rack it off of, which of course you get on the iDot Pros. So as you can see, there's a giant ledge there. That gives you all the ability in the world to rack those sights off whatever you come across. So like even just if I take my hand here and basically simulate like it's my belt or really anything else I can rack it off of, all I got to do is just push down against that and I can fully cycle that slide with very little issue. Now they do make a different style of the iDot Pros now that has like a little step up. So I prefer just this straight up ledge myself. Again, it's a much bigger target to catch when you're doing single-handed manipulation, especially if you're doing left-hand or off-hand single-hand manipulation. I need as much help as I can get to make sure that I'm positively actuating those sights. And because that rear sight's metal, as well as the front sight, I don't have to worry about these sights breaking. I can rack this off whatever I want to, and I know it'll still be there. Now, like I mentioned, again, it does have tritium in both the rear and the front sight, so low light situations, I'm still very easily able to line up, just put one dot over the other, and I know that my sights are aligned in that situation. So even low light, no light shooting is made very easy with these sights. Now one of the biggest pros of these, because there's a lot of really good sights out there, a lot of companies are making excellent aftermarket sights for Glock, Smith & Wessons, all the popular handguns out there. But what I think sets these apart is you get the exceptional high quality of these sights while being at a very appealing price point. So just for reference, as of this time, the subject to change in the future, but currently Primary Arms is selling this exact model of sights for, I believe it's $80, so I'll put a link to that below so you can check them out. Now, of course, that set is only going to be for specific models. If you have a larger frame like the Glock 21 or a smaller frame like the Glock 43 or 42, it's going to be a different model, so I believe it lists the models that those are for down there, so make sure you get the ones that are correct for your firearm. And then again, like I said too, they also come in different configurations as far as the color of the front sight. So if you do prefer the white or the green, then those options are available, but the one I'm going to link below is these exact same ones. I believe it's GL201. If I get that wrong, I'll annotate that difference. So for the same price as some of the more expensive sights out there, I can buy two of these, which is what I did. I was able to outfit my Glock 21 and then later my Glock 19 for the same price as some of my friends pay for just a single set of sights, and then even some of them, after trying these out, have made the switch to the cheaper Ameriglo iDot Pros. Now when I was trying to get ready for this review, I was trying to rack my brain for any cons to these sights. You know, what might they not be good for? Again, you're giving up a little bit of precision based off the way the sights are set up, but again, I don't think very much. If you need ultimate accuracy, then these aren't the sights for you, but again, these are very practically accurate to pretty significant distances, in my opinion. But really, like, the only negative I can think of is if you have a suppressor, they might not be suppressor ready because they might be a little bit too low for that. But if they are, it's just barely. I'm telling you, in my opinion, there's really not much to say in the negative column for these. They're a great price. They're high quality. It's an exceptional sight picture for me. Again, engaging multiple targets fast and moving while I'm shooting is made very, very easy by these sights. This is why whenever I talk to anyone about replacing their sights, these are the #1 ones that I recommend. Again, like I said, a lot of my friends have transitioned to these. I got my former employer to buy some of these because he liked them so much, and I don't know a single person who's had these that was disappointed with them. So all in all, I think if you're looking for a replacement set of sights for your Glock, especially, you know, the mid-size frame to the larger size frame, they're still great for the 42s and 43s, but again, I like having something a little bit more precise than that on the mid-size or full-size guns that I might be using for duty use or anything like that. But again, if you're looking for a replacement set of sights, I would highly recommend at least looking into these. Again, there's a lot of great sight makers out there. Ameriglo even has a bunch of other different sight setups, but this is the one that I like myself. And again, at $80, you really can't go wrong. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, if you have any other recommendations for the sites that you like, feel free to put those in the comment section below. I'm always anxious to hear what you guys have to say. If you've had experience with these specific sites, I know people in previous videos have commented they have, feel free to share your experience with them just in case other people want to see just some other people's opinions. But as always, I hope you're able to get something out of this video, and I really appreciate you watching.